honor it is to come and speak of your passions and actually outline project management and BIM coordination. My topic of discussion today is a question rather I want to delve further in. Before I get to that, let us get to know more about myself. My name is Melissa. My surname is Lwana, and I am a project manager and a BIM coordinator for ProServe Consulting. A bit of background to how I got my job. I actually got interviewed for being a BIM coordinator with the background of being a project manager, and I then outlined my skills for both, and I got an extension of my job title. So I cover both aspects, and they actually do merge and speak together. So today I will be delving deeper into the perspective that BIM success is driven by management, governance, and leadership. What do? I am a project manager. I deliver projects, I coordinate, I identify risks, and I deal with risk management. I build execution plans, and I manage common data environments. I also standardize projects, and I deal with project alignment. So let me engage your mind. The first question I want to bring today to you, when you think about BIM, what comes to mind first? Do you think 3D models? Do you think software tools? Do you think of data and information? Or do you then go to project management and coordination? For me, this is a bit biased because I did outline what I do for work. So I will automatically think of what I do on a daily basis when I am at ProServe Consulting, which is mostly project management and coordination. Now let me take you to the second question. I want you to engage yourself in that seat. Which built environment professional should lead a BIM project? Is it an architect? And you will say so because they are the ones who actually start off a project and deal with designing. Or do we go to engineers? Will architects allow that? Why can a quantity surveyor not lead a project? It's a bit unfortunate because there hasn't been any software that can beat WinQS or DimX. I am yet to hear about that. So for them, we are left wondering, can they lead a BIM project? Or is it project managers who actually deal with coordination every day, they deal with leadership? So who do you actually think can lead a BIM project on a BIM software? Now let's speak of the models to management. Remember when it started, it was called Building Information Modeling. We went on and we expanded and it was Building Information Management. Let's shift the BIM perspective. I'm so glad that CIDB outlined new changes, and actually I just want to highlight that it actually is very worrisome that there is a number of contractors that we can count that are onboarded on BIM softwares, BIM coordination, BIM handling in general. So let us shift this perspective. Why do we not have contractors with us on this BIM platform, this BIM processes? Why are they not involved? And we've also had our speakers outlining that we need to onboard them earlier than we actually do, before we actually deal with stage 4 documentation. Can we actually do that? Can we onboard them at an earlier stage? The role of a project manager is to bridge disciplines and drive BIM maturity through leadership and coordination. That's my everyday job. Everything is your fault. If you don't do it, it's the PM. If nothing goes well, it's the PM. If I don't have something, it's the PM. Everything, it's the PM. It's the PM. And that's their role. We take that with the high chin and we just drive it to success. Aligning people, processes, and technology. That's basically the idea of BIM. There's nothing further to that. That's the success of a BIM project. We have to have people, we have to have processes in place, and we have to identify the technology that we will use on each project that we are heading. Someone did actually outline that you need to pilot a project. You don't need to take the whole ship and actually steer it at the same time. It won't work. It will not work. Identify what your niche is, identify which project you want to onboard, and take that further. Let us delve further into the problem. Designer-centric implementation. BIM adaptation is driven by architects and engineers. Other key stakeholders are excluded in the early processes. This is a fact. The stages of construction outline this already as is. However, BIM can just change this whole perspective. Why do we not have facilities managers onboarded from the start? Why do we want to deal with the end user at stage 6? What product are we building? Who are we building it for? Why are they not involved at the start of the project? Now, late stakeholder involvement is our second problem identified with this topic of discussion today. I did outline that we will get architects and the engineers running, and then everyone else will jump in as time goes, and that is a problem. Everyone needs to be onboarded from the word go. Everyone needs to understand what the brief is with everyone that started the project. Let me not find out what we're doing when everyone else has been onboarded on the project. And this then drives the problem back to the project manager. Why did you appoint me at stage 2? Why did you appoint me at stage 4? Why? Why is that? If you are receiving information without putting any works, do you want more money? Because BIM can allow that to happen seamlessly. You can receive information without involvement. You are in the project. We just need to do better procurement, and that's it. The third problem, which has been a reiteration throughout this whole day, weak governance and accountability. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, BIM outlines who does what, when, how, whatever time, where. It can even go to those extents. So if we are transparent in our projects, we are actually dealing with the problems. If I am able to ask for something without needing to speak to you and you get it at an efficient rate, isn't that us tying in with the better governance? Are we not then trying to integrate roles and make a clear understanding of who does what in a project? The fourth problem, BIM is misunderstood as a tool. I don't blame them. I went to school. I thought I could be a BIM champion through theory, only to find out when I got to work, there's processes in place. And unfortunately, we aren't let known of those things when we are still at varsity. We know of the theory, we know of how it can drive a project to success, we know of the full implementation and the benefits it gives, but I do not know that there's Bentley, I do not know that there's Autodesk Forma, I do not know that there's Navisworks, and I think AutoCAD is a BIM tool. So let us run away from thinking that these tools that are put in place, these softwares, are actually what BIM is. Let us understand that the people who actually are working on these processes are part of what BIM is. So we've identified the problem. Let's go to the honest picture. Budget resistance. This was outlined multiple times by all speakers today. And are you actually saving money when you don't buy a license? Can the business leads think to that extent? If I get a license, I'm not going to use it for one project. I'm going to extend my services for the next project. So if I put in my SLA that you must onboard yourself on a BIM project, will it not benefit you to actually get more people to want to work with you as well? Does that not allow you to up your rate as a professional? And that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. If I then advance my skills in this process, will I not be a better professional? Will my expertise not be trusted better? And the thing about the industry right now is the resistance and trusting that it does really work. Training investment, don't do it once, but you can't force people to then change immediately after, but unfortunately, my boss has put it in KPIs that I need to do this thing. But you definitely need to do it because times are changing. We did not know of AI and the entrance it would make. Years ago, people did not know about BIM, and then young professionals are entering spaces and offices, and they're outlining that this is what I heard at school, and this is what I want to implement. A completely new system. This isn't a plug-in, it changes how teams plan, model, and hand over work. Not just what tool renders it. It's not Revit only. because not all professionals use Revit. We aren't all trained to use it. We aren't all trained to identify clashes the same way. As a project manager, I rather observe, I rather question, I then apply myself on something that I do not have the core expertise of in my profession. Patchy adaptation, patchy data, there's nothing more to that. If you don't onboard correctly, you won't get the success and outcome that you want. And what is getting in the way? License cost, I outlined. You think you're saving money. You actually are depriving yourself of growth. You are depriving your company of growth. You are depriving your young professionals of integrations with like-minded professionals. And hence why we need to understand that it won't cease to limit yourself in advancing in a company and a business. Infrastructure limit, unstable power, limited bandwidth, and other hardware constraints. Are you still using the server? Will you still use it 10 years from now? What will you do? Resistance to change, comfort with existing 2D workflows. Are people still opening drawings on site and hovering over them, and everyone is marking up, and then when you get home to see what happened in the meeting, you don't know who did what, when, and how, what's changing? Will we monitor that successfully? Hybrid roles, no dedicated ones. Well, I'm a dedicated one. I'm a project manager and I'm a BIM coordinator, and you can do that. You can advance yourself. You can definitely note that you will be benefiting with the skills that you will get at a cost saving as well. And that's the benefit of BIM. That's the benefit of BIM adaptation. Why does this matter? Why does it matter for you to lead and appoint a project manager to take on BIM coordination? Because there are consequences to poor BIM management, inefficiencies like poor coordination, dedicated work, inconsistent data, quality, direct, undermine processes success. Okay, so basically the scope of a project manager is to coordinate, to lead, to take forth the project. So why can a coordinator not do that successfully? Why are we not allowing this change to happen? Why is there resistance in people trusting that we need to move away from design-centric decisions for better BIM development? Important governance and standards. We know of ISO 19650, and it's been brought forth to us. It is essential for competitiveness and accreditation. It's safe to then now trust that it's supported by a standard. Are you still doubting that it will work for your project, your business? And then strategic necessity for BIM maturity. Improving BIM maturity affects project outcomes, the reputation of the organization, the project risks, and long-term industry growth. Skills gap, let's work bottom up. Students, and I do not think all institutes, have now implemented the use and the knowledge of BIM, and that is the core problem. Let us drive platforms like BIM Harambee, and let know that we actually need these things to be learned at school. We'll be studying at different places with different curriculums, but then when we then get to the workplace, we are all young professionals and not everyone knows of BIM. And I heard a varsity representative only mentioning that they only onboarded it recently. And that is the problem. We need to then be let known that the students who are at school, who are built environment-centric, they need to be onboarded into building information modeling, building information management. It's a need, it's identified, and there's a gap. And there's a gap because the tools are not implemented, it's just theory. Why is that not being enforced in the varsities? Why is that not identified and gunned to the point where we know that we have attended to this problem? I knew nothing of softwares, but I knew a lot about what BIM can do, not how I can do it when I was a student. Essential BIM competencies, there are BIM execution plans that need to be in place for every platform that people use. ISO 19650, well, that standard champions the lead. It needs a lead for you to be able to get that standard, and the identified lead that you can adapt for yourself is a project manager. Education system challenges, I've identified those, but that is where skills gap is also identified. Collaborative solutions, let us bridge that gap. that requires academia and industry to align in their practical needs and managerial competencies, please. Current BIM reality, it's tool-focused. There's a lack of standardized processes, theory versus practice in that aspect, specifically for a university student. It's good that you catch a junior now because they probably do know about BIM and the processes and the implementation of that. Stakeholder misalignment, lack of shared vision and coordination amongst discipline leads with fragmented BIM implementation, because we have leaders and seniors who've never heard of this, who've been working in the industry, and we appreciate the expertise, but the time is changing now, and you need to then note that you need someone to then head this in your project, in your company. And then I just want to outline that there's still hope. There's still hope that we may then hold platforms like BIM Harambee to outline that there is a problem that's identified, that people actually think BIM is a whole thought process, that people think BIM is something that will not work and succeed. There are standards that actually support this now. So I would then encourage that today be a day where you see and think that the future is bright and the change will come. Thank you.